Japan faces an unprecedented social catastrophe, with 76,020 people dying alone in their homes in 2024, a phenomenon called Kodokushi, or lonely death. This represents the first comprehensive national count of unwitnessed deaths, revealing a crisis that has tripled since the 1980s and now affects all age groups.
家族にね、一人、だから死んだらね、もう告別式もないし、お通夜もないし、一人でひっそり行く違う。
The majority are elderly men, 76.4% over 65, but increasingly includes younger adults, with some bodies remaining undiscovered for months or even years. Beyond individual tragedy, Kodokushi reflects Japan's broader demographic transformation, rapid aging, social isolation, and the collapse of traditional family structures, creating ripple effects across housing markets, healthcare systems, and community bonds that other aging societies worldwide are beginning to experience. The 2024 National Police Agency data marks the first time Japan has comprehensively tracked Kodokushi deaths nationwide, revealing the true magnitude of this crisis. The 76,020 deaths represent only those handled by police out of 204,184 total deaths, suggesting the actual numbers may be even higher. Alternative estimates from researchers place the annual figure closer to 30,000 to 40,000 unwitnessed deaths, with the NLI Research Institute noting significant underreporting in official statistics. The discovery patterns are particularly disturbing. While 39.2% of bodies are found within one day, approximately 4,538 cases, 7.8%, remain undiscovered for over a month. The most extreme cases reveal the depth of social isolation. 130 bodies went unnoticed for at least 1 year, with automatic bank withdrawals continuing to pay rent and utilities until savings were depleted. The seasonal pattern shows peak discoveries during July-August, when heat accelerates decomposition and odors alert neighbors. Tokyo leads with 7,699 cases, followed by Osaka, 5,329, Kanagawa, 3,659, and Aichi, 3,411. These metropolitan concentrations reflect urbanization's role in social disconnection, where anonymity replaces traditional community bonds. While the media often portrays Kodokushi as primarily affecting the elderly, the 2024 data reveals a more complex demographic reality. Men die alone at an 8-to-2 ratio compared to women, with the average age being 61 for both genders. Critically, 23.6% of victims were under 65, including approximately 500 cases involving people in their teens to 30s. The gender-specific patterns show different pathways to isolation. Men face higher rates due to corporate culture dependency. When lifetime employment ends through downsizing or retirement, many lose their primary social connections. The breakdown of traditional salaryman culture since Japan's 1990s economic crisis left many middle-aged men without community ties beyond work. Women show higher rates among Kodokushi victims, 16.3% versus 10.2% for men, suggesting different forms of desperation leading to isolated deaths. Economic vulnerability plays a significant role, with over 15% of Japan's population living below the poverty line and 45% of single-parent households in poverty. The intersection of economic instability and social isolation creates particular risk for divorced or unmarried men over 50, early retirees affected by corporate downsizing, and individuals with strained family relationships. Kodokushi first appeared in Japanese media during the 1970s, but remained marginal until the 1995 Great Hanshin earthquake created a turning point. Thousands of elderly Japanese were relocated and began dying alone, isolated from family and friends. The number of cases tripled between 1983 and 1994, establishing a trajectory that continues today. The phenomenon gained national attention in 2000 with a landmark case, a 69-year-old man discovered 3 years after his death, found only when automatic bank payments ceased and his skeleton was discovered consumed by maggots and beetles. This case crystallized public awareness of how modern urban life could enable complete social disconnection. Academic research began systematically tracking the phenomenon in the early 2000s. The Chiba Prefecture housing complex study provided crucial early data, finding that 53.9% of suspected cases were actual Kodokushi, establishing methodological frameworks still used today. By 2009, NHK reported 32,000 elderly people dying alone nationwide, though comprehensive national statistics only became available in 2024. Japan's Kodokushi crisis reflects a profound collision between traditional and modern values. Traditional Japanese society emphasized multi-generational households and community support, but modernization has systematically eroded these safety nets. The cultural value of meiwaku wo kakutakunai, not wanting to inconvenience others, now prevents people from seeking help, transforming a virtue into a vulnerability. Masaki Ichinos, head of the University of Tokyo's Institute of Death and Life Studies, argues that the increase in Kodokushi links to Japan's contemporary culture that ignores death. Unlike centuries past when families commonly buried their own dead, modern Japanese culture provides fewer opportunities to witness death, making it an uncomfortable topic, avoided in daily life. The breakdown of lifetime employment systems after 1990 forced many businessmen into early retirement, severing their primary social connections. Corporate identity was deeply fused with personal identity for many Japanese men, leaving them socially adrift when removed from company structures. The second baby boom generation, born early 1970s, faced particular challenges during the 1990s recession, leading to fewer marriages and children, creating a cohort now aging into Kodokushi risk. Beyond statistics lie individual stories that reveal Kodokushi's human impact. Professional cleaners like Miyu Kojima document these cases, creating awareness through their specialized trauma cleaning work. Haruki Watanabe, 60, died of heart problems in Osaka's outskirts, found weeks later surrounded by rotted bedsheets and old food containers with no family claiming his body. The Sapporo sisters case involved two 40-year-old women found frozen to death in their apartment, highlighting how Kodokushi affects younger adults and women. A 75-year-old Tokyo man found 3 weeks after death, and a 51-year-old Chiba man discovered 10 days later represent typical cases that cleaning companies handle regularly. Specialized cleaning companies report that 20% of their jobs, 300 annually, involve Kodokushi cleanup, while 4.5% of all funerals in 2006 involved Kodokushi cases. To-Do Company estimates 30,000 unattended deaths annually, creating an entire industry around addressing the aftermath of social isolation. The Chiba Prefecture study provides detailed case analysis. 65 cases reviewed over 7 years showed 60.3% were male, with average ages of 61.3 for men and 71.3 for women. These documented cases consistently show patterns of social withdrawal, economic struggle, and health problems that go unaddressed due to isolation.
49かな、とりあえず弟がフラン死体で見つかったってことで、火葬の時も普通だったら顔を見てから火葬すると思うんですよ、今までのいろいろ。それもだから開けずに火葬に入った状態ですから、ゴミ屋敷みたいな、そんなような状態ですよね。よくここで住んでたなと。
Japan became the second country globally, after the UK, to appoint a Minister for Loneliness and Social Isolation in February 2021. Minister Tetsushi Sakamoto oversees the Office for Policy on Loneliness and Isolation within the Cabinet Secretariat, addressing rising suicide rates and social isolation exacerbated by COVID-19. The Act on Promotion of a Policy for Loneliness and Isolation, effective April 1st, 2024, establishes comprehensive legislative framework with mandatory 5-year reviews. The government allocated 6 billion yen, $54.6 million, in emergency funding for 2021, distributed to NPOs and organizations tackling loneliness and isolation. Municipal responses vary significantly. Tokyo's Shinjuku ward implements Kodokushi awareness campaigns, scheduled social events, and regular welfare checks. Matsudo City operates a comprehensive model with 108 senior residences and a $358 million annual budget, representing 25% of the local government budget, focusing on prevention through active aging and group activities. Okazaki City pioneered public-private partnerships in 2013, recruiting newspaper delivery companies, utility workers, and local businesses into Mimamori neighborhood surveillance networks. This model expands beyond traditional volunteers to create broader community monitoring systems. Leading researchers provide theoretical frameworks for understanding Kodokushi's significance. Jason Danley from Oxford Brookes University argues that an elderly person who dies alone is a potent image in Japan because it indexes the breakdown of a social order, the rules and values that were supposed to undergird generational and spiritual continuity. Anne Allison from Duke University situates Kodokushi within Japan's broader transformation toward singlification and disconnected society, Muen Shakai. She identifies how neoliberal shifts toward self-responsibility affect death management, creating an era of family-less dead due to economic decline and demographic changes. German scholar Niels Dahl traces how Kodokushi evolved from a rare event at the margins of society into a buzzword in the center of public attention. His research shows that mass media constructs Kodokushi as a bad death, utilizing this negative image to motivate community surveillance and welfare network construction. Experts apply various sociological theories. Giddens' Juggernaut of Modernity explains how family structure changes and cultural shifts create uncontrollable social momentum toward isolation. Social isolation theory identifies the breakdown of multi-generational housing, weakening community bonds, and economic changes as primary drivers.
특수한 현장의 일을 하고 있습니다. 고독사나 자살, 범죄 피해 현장에 특수 청소를 하고 이제 고인의 유품을 정리를 해서 유가족분들에게 전달을 해드리고.
South Korea experiences Kodokushi, with people in their 50s and 60s comprising 60% of lonely deaths, and men 5.3 times more likely to die alone. 95% of victims were unemployed, with 52% occurring in low-rise or rental apartments. Seoul has invested $327 million over 5 years to combat loneliness, showing the scale of resources required. Australia shows dramatic increases in socially isolated deaths, with Adelaide cases rising from 27 in 2004 to 67 in 2023, predominantly affecting males about 78%, with post-mortem intervals doubling from 10.7 to 21 days. This demonstrates how similar demographic transitions create comparable challenges across developed nations. Taiwan and Hong Kong are experiencing early stages of similar phenomena due to aging populations and increasing numbers of elderly living alone. The World Economic Forum identifies Japan as a policy laboratory for dealing with aging, shrinking populations, suggesting other countries will face similar challenges. The Kodokushi crisis intersects with Japan's economic restructuring since the 1990s. The collapse of lifetime employment systems removed primary social connections for many men, while corporate downsizing forced early retirements without alternative community engagement structures. The hikikomori phenomenon affects 500,000 to over 1 million individuals, many of whom will age into Kodokushi risk as their parents die. Housing markets have adapted with specialized insurance products for landlords to cover cleanup costs and lost rent from Kodokushi incidents. 80% of rental property owners are reluctant to rent to elderly singles, creating additional barriers to housing security. Average cleanup costs of $2,250 per apartment have created an entire specialized industry. The 80-50 problem, 80-year-old parents caring for 50-year-old withdrawn children, represents a demographic time bomb as these caregiving relationships end through parental death or incapacity, potentially creating future Kodokushi cases. Current interventions show promise but struggle with scale. Community General Support Centers provide comprehensive consultation services designed to link isolated individuals to community resources. Dementia community cafes operate in over 7,000 locations nationwide, with 53% held in long-term care facilities and volunteer transportation services addressing mobility barriers. Technology solutions include wearable device monitoring systems and cloud-based information processing to detect emergencies, though adoption remains limited due to costs and cultural resistance. Digital monitoring systems and ambient assisted living technologies represent potential scalable solutions requiring further development. The Tokiwa-Daira residential complex model near Tokyo provides comprehensive support, including helplines, social activities, and monitoring systems. While it has reduced prolonged lonely deaths, organizers acknowledge interventions remain insufficient in the face of the scale of the problem. By 2065, 38.4% of Japan's population will be over 65, with total population expected to fall to 87 million by 2060. Single-person households will reach 44.3% by 2050, with senior citizens living alone jumping 47%. These demographic projections suggest Kodokushi will continue increasing without major intervention. Japanese demographers predict the country will become a death-laden society, overwhelmed with deaths of advanced age individuals at a scale unparalleled in history. This creates challenges, including shortages in basic medical resources and dilemmas between dying in place versus lonely death. International spread seems inevitable as other developed nations experience similar demographic transitions. The phenomenon provides early warning for countries entering rapid aging phases, requiring comprehensive societal responses, addressing root causes of social isolation rather than merely treating symptoms. Kodokushi represents far more than a statistical crisis. It embodies the unintended consequences of Japan's rapid modernization and demographic transformation. The phenomenon reveals how economic progress, urbanization, and changing family structures can create new forms of social vulnerability that traditional safety nets cannot address. With over 76,000 annual deaths and climbing, Japan faces an urgent need for comprehensive societal restructuring that rebuilds community connections while adapting to modern realities. The government's unprecedented response, including ministerial appointments, legislative frameworks, and substantial funding, demonstrates serious political commitment. Yet experts agree current interventions remain insufficient given the scale. As other developed nations begin experiencing similar demographic transitions, Japan's struggle with Kodokushi serves as both warning and potential model for addressing the loneliness epidemic that may define the 21st century's social challenges. The ultimate resolution requires not just policy changes, but cultural transformation that reconciles individual autonomy with community responsibility, ensuring that progress doesn't leave the most vulnerable to die alone and unnoticed.